His egg mobile slammed into something solid, metal screaming as it carved a burning trench through black stone. The world outside his cockpit was a smear of orange fire and jagged shadows. Sparks sprayed across his goggles as the craft finally skidded to a halt, half buried in rubble beneath a shattered marble statue of a double-headed eagle. For a second there was only ringing silence. Then Dr. Ivo Eggman, Robot Nick, groaned, lifted his head, and laughed breathlessly. "Note to self," he muttered, patting the cracked console. "Do not chase a blue hedgehog through an unstable warp ring without proper testing." Hoo boy. He blinked the smoke out of his eyes and finally looked around. The city was on fire. Cathedral towers stabbed into a sky the color of dried blood, their windows vomiting smoke and flame. Giant stone arches were carved with skulls, wings, and Latin he didn't recognize. Sirens howled somewhere in the distance. In the streets beyond the plaza, he saw flashes of gunfire, heard the stuttering roar of heavy weapons and the distant inhuman screams of something that definitely wasn't from his world. Eggman pushed open the hatch and climbed out of the eggmobile, boots crunching on broken masonry. Heat from the burning buildings kissed his cheeks. The air smelled like ash and oil and old incense. "Well," he said, straightening his torn red coat, "this definitely isn't Station Square." A beam of blue light sizzled past his mustache and vaporized a chunk of the statue next to him. Hostile contact detected. His eggmobile's damaged AI rasped from a speaker, voice flickering like bad radio. "Recommend immediate evasive action, Doctor." Eggman turned slowly. They were giants. 8 feet tall at least, maybe more, wrapped in blue power armor trimmed with gold, each one a walking fortress. Their helmets glowed with red lenses. Crude, stylized skulls and winged symbols decorated their shoulder plates. They held massive guns, boxy and brutal, that thumped as they fired more of those explosive rounds in his direction. One of them stepped forward. His voice boomed from his helmet like thunder. "Unidentified xenoconstruct. By order of the Emperor of Mankind, you will submit to inspection or be destroyed." Eggman put his hands up, not in surrender but to show off his best smile. "Easy there, big guy. I'm not a construct, I'm a genius. Dr. Ivo Robotnik. But my friends call me Eggman, mostly because they lack taste and fear my brilliance." The red lenses stared without a hint of humor. A bolter roared. Eggman dove behind the eggmobile as the shot detonated where he'd been standing, showering him with shards of black stone. He coughed, smearing soot across his gloves. "Right. Fanatics with oversized guns. Got it." He slapped a panel on the side of the eggmobile. It sputtered, coughed sparks, then reluctantly popped open compartments like bruised metal flowers. Half a dozen little egg-shaped robots rolled out, each with a single red eye and stubby legs. "Badniks, wake up." Eggman barked. "New universe, same objective. Scan those walking tin cans and don't get turned into scrap. Again." The drones chirped and scuttled forward, weaving between fallen masonry. The Space Marines shifted, tracking them, and opened fire. Explosive bolts tore into the ground, ripping badniks apart in bright blooms of shrapnel, but a few made it through, latching onto armored legs with magnetic claws. Lasers hissed as they began cutting at joints and seams, recording every micron. Armor composition: ceramite bonded with adamantium. The AI crackled in Eggman's ear. Power source: high-density fusion reactor. Probability of replicating: with sufficient resources, high. Eggman grinned behind his mustache. "Delicious. These boys are walking research projects." Another volley hit the eggmobile, rocking it. Warning lights flared red. Something important vented smoke from the back. "Doctor," the AI warned, "remaining shield integrity, 12%. Suggest withdrawal." "I was thinking the same thing," he said. He punched the emergency thrusters. The eggmobile howled, engine spitting blue fire as it lurched off the ground. Bolter rounds chased it, exploding just behind, but the battered craft clawed its way into the sky, weaving between cathedral spires and columns of smoke. From above, the city stretched like a nightmare painting. Miles of Gothic buildings, bridges, and huge statues, all lit by fires and weapons flashes. Beyond the walls, he glimpsed trenches, artillery emplacements, and giant tanks grinding forward, belching flame. Overhead, shadows of massive warships drifted behind the clouds like steel whales. His cheeks dimpled with excitement. Oh, this is wonderful. A whole universe built around war and overcompensation. The technology one could steal from these people. The egg mobile coughed again and dropped several meters. Correction, Eggman muttered, fighting the controls. The technology one will steal after I stop crashing today. He scanned the city quickly, looking for somewhere to hide. One sector below was dark, its manufactorum silent, chimneys cold. Something about the pattern of buildings told him it had been abandoned even before the current battle. No lights, no marching soldiers, just black shapes and rust. Perfect, he whispered. An empty workshop. He angled the egg mobile down, dodging between two smoky towers, and slipped into the dead district like a shadow. The manufactorum he chose stretched for blocks, a tangled jungle of cranes, conveyor belts, and hanging chains. Massive doors bore the same double-headed eagle symbol, but were half buried in dust and rubble. Eggman blasted a hole in one with his remaining missiles and slid inside, landing the egg mobile with the gentleness of a dropped brick. Inside, it was quiet. Dust motes danced in slants of sickly light. Rows of mechanical arms hung frozen above assembly lines that hadn't moved in years. Broken servitors, part machine, part corpse, slumped in corners, wires dangling. Eggman stepped out, boots echoing on metal. He took a deep breath of the stale air and smiled. Home sweet temporary home. He set to work. Tiny repair drones swarmed from his belt, splitting and replicating as they cannibalized scrap. They perched on overhead rails, slicing open old machines and sucking out still usable parts. Soon the dead factory hummed again, powered by cables leaching energy from forgotten conduits deep in the floor. While his machines rebuilt the manufactorum, Eggman hacked the planet's data streams. At first it was like trying to read a book while someone screamed in his ear. Encrypted Vox traffic, military orders, prayers, warnings. But line by line the genius in him stripped away noise and found patterns. He learned of the Imperium of Man, a galaxy-spanning empire where everything was either sacred or heretical. He learned of the Emperor, a corpse king worshipped as a god. He saw images of knights, titans, and ships bigger than continents, all marching, striding, or drifting to war. Every new fact made his heart beat faster. These people built a civilization out of fear and fire, he said one night, leaning over a holographic projection of a Titan war machine. They worship their own technology because they're too terrified to understand it. No innovation, no imagination. Just endless war. And potential. So much potential. On the hologram, the Titan's weapons were labeled in glowing script. Plasma annihilators, volcano cannons, quake launchers. Eggman zoomed in and scribbled new designs over the image, rewriting its silhouette to be rounder, smoother, more recognizable. Let's fix that, shall we? The AI chimed. Caution, Doctor. Records show that unauthorized innovation is punished by execution, often accompanied by flaying, burning, or exposure to vacuum. Eggman snorted. Please. I've been called a madman on half a dozen worlds. They can get in line. Days blurred into nights, marked only by the shifting hue of fires outside and the growing vibration underfoot as his machines woke the manufactorum from its long coma. Conveyor belts rattled to life, carrying fresh forged parts. Robot arms, retrofitted with Eggman's sleek designs, welded, riveted, and bolted together new shells. Egg-shaped heads snapped onto armored torsos. Weapons were mounted. Plasma cannons here, rotary bolt launchers there, gravitic claws capable of crushing tank hulls like empty cans. Eggman stood above it all on a catwalk, watching his army assemble, his smile stretching almost as wide as his mustache. Rows upon rows of Eggbots marched off the line, red and yellow armor glowing in the sporadic light. Their single blue eyes flickered in perfect sync. Look at you, he murmured. Imperial dogma meets Eggman genius. The mechanized Egg Legion. Sonic would be screaming already. The AI chimed again, but this time its tone was uneasy. Doctor, anomalous energy readings detected in your warp reactor experiment. Ah, the warp. That was the one part of this new universe that even Eggman treated with caution. He had watched the fleet battles in orbit and the way ships slid in and out of reality, riding invisible currents of madness. He had studied scraps of data about the immaterium, about demons and gods and the souls of the dead. It all sounded ridiculous, but the energy signatures were real, and he hated wasting power. So he had built a chamber in the heart of the manufactorum, a perfect sphere lined with hexagonal plates, every surface inscribed not with prayers but with equations. Inside floated a trembling knot of purple light, the size of a man's head, held in place by fields and anchored to reality by machinery that hummed like a swarm of angry bees. Eggman stepped into the chamber, hands folded behind his back. The warp knot pulsed, and for a moment he felt something push against his thoughts, like a stranger pressing their forehead against his. "You are not of this galaxy," something whispered, all voices and no voice. "You arrive alone, dragging your arrogance behind you like a cloak." Eggman raised an eyebrow. Flattered you noticed. "And you are." "We are hunger. We are promise. We are the thoughts men are afraid to think. We are the ones they call chaos," the whisper replied. "You are clever, little man. Clever and greedy. You would fit perfectly among us." Eggman smiled thinly. "I appreciate the recruitment pitch, but I prefer being my own boss." "We can give you legions without limit," it insisted. "Warp-forged engines, demon-bound machines, worlds to turn into your mechanical playground. Only open your soul to us. Let our power inside your creations." Images flashed before his eyes. Planet-sized fortresses bearing his face, robotic suns, Sonic chained before a throne made of gears and skulls. It was intoxicating. And it was a trap. He chuckled. "Nice special effects. But I've spent years dealing with tricksters, gods, and rodents with hero complexes. I know a leash when I see one." Before the warp presence could reply, he hit a control on his gauntlet. The containment field tightened around the knot of energy, compressing it until the chamber screamed with stress. The whisper turned into a howl and then into nothing at all. When the light faded, a crystal hovered where the warp knot had been, humming softly, its surface swirling with captured chaos. Eggman plucked it from the air and held it up. "Now you're useful. A power source that doesn't talk back." He slotted the crystal into a special cradle in his main console. Every screen in the manufactorum flickered for a moment, then blazed brighter as newfound energy flooded the system. Outside, though, the universe shuddered. The disappearance of even a tiny piece of warp had not gone unnoticed. Demons snarled at the disturbance. Somewhere on the planet, cloaked figures kneeled over hololithic maps, their eyes widening as symbols flared crimson. Imperial censors screamed warnings about unauthorized reality manipulation. The word tech heretic spread, whispered like a curse. The war that had until now ignored the dead district suddenly bent toward it like iron filings to a magnet. The first sign was the thunder of engines. Eggman stood on a balcony overlooking the city as dawn tried and failed to break through the smoke. On one horizon, towers of dust and ash marked the approach of something colossal. Titans, striding on legs like skyscrapers, gun limbs already glowing with charge. On the opposite side, the air split open in wounds of warped color, and outpoured twisted marines in spiked armor, mobs of cultists, and hulking demons with mouths where their stomachs should be. "Imperial and Chaos forces converging," the AI reported calmly. "Both have identified this position as primary objective." Eggman's smile was sharp. "Wow. I've been here 5 minutes and already everyone wants a piece of me. I must be doing something right." He sent the activation signal. Inside the manufactorum, countless eyes lit up. Servos whined. The ground shook as the mechanized Egg Legion marched out through the broken doors in perfect formation, weapons humming. Flying drones lifted into the air like a blizzard of metal insects. At the center of it all, something much larger awakened. Egg Colossus Prime unfolded from its construction cradle, towering over the rest. Its central body was an armored egg the size of a cathedral dome, bristling with cannons, missile racks, and gravitic emitters. The Titan's legs were thick, stomping things that could crush tanks to scrap. One arm ended in a multi-barreled energy projector. the other in a claw big enough to grab an Imperial Knight and use it as a club. Eggman rode an elevator straight into its chest, settling into a throne-like pilot seat that wrapped around him with cables and harnesses. Screens flickered to life, offering a dizzying view of the city from dozens of angles. The warp crystal pulsed in a slot above his head, feeding impossible power into every system. Egg Colossus Prime online, the AI announced. All weapons at full capacity. Structural integrity nominal. Style rating excessive. Eggman laughed. Just the way I like it. All right then. Let's introduce ourselves. The Titan took a step out of the manufactorum, the ground buckling under the weight. Civilians hidden in nearby ruins screamed and ran. Even Chaos Warriors hesitated as the shadow of the colossal war machine passed over them. Eggman opened a wideband broadcast. His voice rolled across the city like thunder. People of this grim little war world, allow me to introduce your new problem. I am Dr. Eggman, soon to be the greatest mind this galaxy has ever seen, and this is my Egg Legion. You can call this an unscheduled technological upgrade. An Imperial Titan answered with a vortex of laser fire. Egg Colossus Prime staggered but did not fall. Shields flared, shedding energy in sheets of blue lightning. Eggman gritted his teeth, fingers flying over controls. Firing solution, the AI intoned. Do it. Eggman snarled. The Colossus' right arm swung toward the enemy Titan. A beam of warp-boosted plasma speared through the air, so bright it turned shadows into negative shapes. It hit the opposing Titan just below the carapace. Armor boiled. Internal reactors overloaded. The God Machine screamed, a sound felt more than heard, and toppled into a row of hab blocks, crushing them flat. Chaos forces cheered at the destruction even as Imperial Vox channels shrieked oaths of vengeance. Then both sides turned on Eggman. Bolter shells, lost cannon beams, psychic lightning, and warp fire all converged on the Colossus. The Titan strode forward through it, swatting squads of traitor Marines with one casual sweep of its claw while its chest-mounted cannons spat gravitic pulses that flattened Chaos demons into twitching pancakes. On the streets below, the Egg Legion clashed with Space Marines and cultists alike. Robots tore chainswords from armored hands and snapped them like twigs. In response, a lone Imperial hero waded into the fight swinging a massive power hammer, smashing Eggbots left and right, refusing to fall even when buried in wreckage. Eggman watched it all with an exhilarated grin. Now this, he said as another barrage shook his Titan, is my kind of Saturday. But the warp does not like being cheated. The crystal above his head began to throb faster, light leaking from its fractured edges. Warning, the AI said. Warp core instability rising. Continued high-output firing will result in containment failure. Probability of local reality collapse. Increasing exponentially. On the horizon, two more Imperial Titans trudged into view. Above them, the sky tore open yet again, vomiting a monstrous winged demon whose silhouette made even Eggman's stomach drop for a moment. He did the math. Destroy everything here in a glorious explosion and maybe survive in some broken fragment of spacetime. Or live to try again later with everything he'd learned. For once in his life, he chose patience. Legion, he ordered across his networks. Transmit combat data and prepare for emergency recall. We're making a tactical retreat. Don't get sentimental, you can blow them up next time. Surviving Eggbots broke formation and sprinted back toward the Colossus, leaping into open bays that swallowed them like metallic mouths. Others disintegrated into swarms of micro-drones that flew in through vents. On the ground, both Imperial and Chaos soldiers stared in confusion as their mechanical enemies simply left. Eggman grabbed the controls and brought the secondary plan online. Deep beneath the manufactorum, the drills he'd secretly planted screamed to life, spinning in circles so fast they blurred, carving not into rock but into the thin skin between reality and the warp. Space twisted in front of Egg Colossus Prime. A ring of crackling energy opened, growing until it was large enough to swallow the giant machine. Through it, Eggman glimpsed somewhere else. Another world, another sky. Doctor, the AI said, voice steady even as alarms blared. Navigation through unsupervised warp tunnel is not recommended. Eggman smirked. Neither is staying here and letting religious fanatics and literal demons argue over who gets to kill me first. He turned one last time, aiming every gun at the approaching demon and the nearest titan. Consider this a farewell gift. The Colossus unleashed everything at once. Plasma, missiles, gravitic bursts, warp-laced energy. The city vanished in a white-blue storm. Buildings crumpled. The demon's roar turned into a shriek as most of its body atomized. One of the Imperial Titans lost an arm and half its head. Then Eggman drove his Titan straight into the waiting rift. For a heartbeat, there was nothing but color and pressure and the feeling of being peeled apart. Shapes whispered at the edges of his vision, offering deals, threats, promises of eternal glory or eternal suffering. He ignored them all, eyes locked on the exit vector calculated in front of him. The Egg Colossus burst out of the warp above a peaceful world under a blue sky. Its bulk triggered every alarm in the heavens as it fell, shedding flaming pieces of armor. Escape pods fired from its chest like bullets. One small egg-shaped capsule, bearing his logo, streaked downward, leaving a bright trail across the calm morning. Inside, seat restraints holding him snug, Eggman leaned back and laughed, wild and exhilarated, as data scrolled across his screen. Recordings of Imperial tech, Titan schematics, warp measurements, combat performance of his legion. "I love field research," he said. "All of that, and I still have my mustache." Below, a new world waited, one he knew all too well. Familiar continents, familiar oceans. Somewhere down there, a blue hedgehog would sense a new problem dropping from the sky and start running toward it. Eggman wiped ash from his goggles, a grin slowly spreading. "Congratulations, Sonic. You're about to meet the Warhammer upgrade." Far away, in that grimdark galaxy, half-terrified scribes wrote nervous reports about a tech heretic who bent machines without prayer and vanished into the warp laughing. In shadowed corners, demons nursed grudges. The Adeptus Mechanicus added a sealed file to their vaults, marked with a new warning sigil. One day, the warp would open again. On that day, in the nightmare universe of endless war, someone would feel a familiar tremor in the air and hear a booming, mocking laugh rolling in with the thunder. Because Dr. Eggman had found the 41st millennium, and now the 41st millennium was on his to-do list.